G. Willikers here, and welcome back to the Holy Land. There is something about climbing a mountain that changes us before we ever reach the summit. Perhaps it is the effort, perhaps it is the growing silence as the world below slowly slips away. Or perhaps it is because, throughout the pages of Scripture, mountains are places where heaven just seems a little closer to earth. Today I am making that climb. The narrow road twists back and forth up the steep slopes of Mount Tabor, rising nearly 2,000 feet above the broad Jezreel Valley. Hairpin turns carry us through groves of oak and pine, each bend revealing another glimpse of the countryside stretching farther and farther below. It's easy to understand why pilgrims have made this journey for nearly 2,000 years. You cannot rush your way to Mount Tabor. The mountain insists that you slow down. And perhaps that is exactly what every soul needs before entering a holy place. For many centuries, Christians have believed this to be the mountain where Jesus took Peter, James, and John apart from everyone else. Not to heal another sick person, not to feed another multitude, not to preach another sermon, but to reveal, if only for a few breathtaking moments, who he truly was. Standing alone above the surrounding plains, Mount Tabor has long drawn the eyes of travelers. From the 4th century onward, Christian pilgrims identified this isolated mountain as the place of the Transfiguration, and churches have stood here in one form or another ever since. The church we see today was completed in 1924 by the Italian architect Antonio Barluzzi, whose work can be found throughout the Holy Land. He designed each church to reflect the mystery that unfolded there. Here, even the entrance prepares us for what lies ahead. The twin towers represent Moses and Elijah, the law and the prophets, who appeared beside Christ in glory. Stone, light, and silence work together to prepare the heart. Crossing this threshold feels less like entering a building and more like stepping into a prayer. Inside, something wonderful is already happening. A Catholic Mass is being celebrated. Pilgrims from many nations have gathered here, just as countless believers have done before them. How fitting that the mystery of the Transfiguration is remembered here, not simply with words, but through worship. Because what happened on this mountain was itself an act of divine worship. St. Matthew tells us that Jesus was transfigured before Peter, James, and John. His face shone like the sun. His garments became dazzling white. Not because something new had been added to him, but because, for one glorious moment, the veil covering his divine nature was drawn back. The one they had walked beside, the one whose dusty feet had followed Galilee's roads, the one who grew tired, hungry, and thirsty, allowed his eternal glory to shine through his humanity. Then Moses appeared. Elijah stood beside him. The law and the prophets themselves bore witness that everything written throughout the centuries pointed to this one person. Peter, overwhelmed by what he saw, cried out, "Lord, it is good that we are here." Who among us would not have said the same? Who would willingly leave such a place? Then a bright cloud overshadowed them. From within that cloud came the voice of the Father himself. "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." Those few words continue to echo through every generation. Listen to him. Not simply admire him, not simply study him. Listen to him. As I stand quietly among these pilgrims, I'm reminded that every Mass is, in its own way, another Mount Tabor. Christ remains hidden beneath ordinary appearances. The bread still looks like bread. The wine still appears to be wine. Yet faith tells us that the same Lord who revealed his glory here continues to make himself present to his people. Not through dazzling light, but through humble love. The Gospel tells us that Jesus showed his glory shortly before beginning the long journey toward Jerusalem and the cross. He knew what awaited his disciples: fear, confusion, suffering. He gave them this glimpse of heaven so they would remember it when darkness came. How often God works that way in our lives. There are moments of extraordinary peace, unexpected joy, a deep awareness that God is near. Those moments rarely last forever, but they remain within us. When trials come, we remember. The light we once received becomes the strength that carries us through the dark valley. Leaving the church, the mountain seems quieter than before. The breeze moves gently through the trees. Pilgrims walk slowly along ancient pathways. The world below stretches in every direction, reminding us how small our daily worries can appear when viewed from a higher place. Nearby stands one of the oldest surviving witnesses to Christian worship on Mount Tabor, a massive 4th century baptismal font. Imagine the generations who entered these waters, men and women who renounced their old lives, who confessed Christ, who emerged understanding that they had become new creations. The font reminds us that every Christian is called to his own kind of transfiguration. Not a change of outward appearance, but the lifelong transformation of the soul into the likeness of Christ. Nearby lie the remains of the Crusader grottos. These weathered stones tell another chapter in the mountain's long history. Churches have been destroyed, they have been rebuilt. Empires have risen, empires have disappeared. Yet pilgrims have never stopped climbing Mount Tabor, because the memory preserved here belongs to something greater than earthly kingdoms. It belongs to the gospel itself. Peter wanted to remain on this mountain forever. He wanted to build shelters, to stay in the glory. But Jesus led the disciples back down, because the mountaintop was never meant to be their destination. It was preparation. Preparation for service, preparation for sacrifice, preparation for suffering, preparation for carrying God's light into the ordinary world below. Every pilgrimage eventually comes to an end. I will descend this mountain just as millions of pilgrims have done before me. The winding road will carry me back into the routines of everyday life. But perhaps that is the real purpose of Mount Tabor, not simply that we admire what happened here, but that we leave with changed eyes and hearts. The Christ who shone with uncreated glory before Peter, James, and John is still the same Lord today. He still calls us upward. He still speaks to every willing heart. And the Father's words still echo across this mountain and across every century. This is my beloved Son. Listen to him. May we do exactly that.